Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 92. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
Me and Jay have a nice, fun show lined up for you.
Yes, we do.
Of course, on the back end, we're going to have our MCU lightning round, sans Jay, because, again, he can't keep up with the MCU conversations.
Way too slow for that.
But I have a review for Rampage that I'm going to be doing alone, because Jay didn't see shit this week, because he was on vacation.
I was on Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on a guy's golf trip. My cousin and our two friends went out for a few days, played some golf. It was beautiful weather. Just lots of wings, lots of beer, lots of golf, lots of farting, lots of just
farting. Why is that something to add into this conversation? Lots of farting.
Well, my one friend, he has an issue, Dave.
Oh, this wasn't a family trip. This was a guy's trip.
A guy's trip.
Guy's trip. Okay. How much golfing did you do in Myrtle Beach?
4 rounds, 4 days, 4 days in a row.
Oh, you guys didn't even go to the fucking beach?
No.
Isn't it like 85 degrees?
We were all in the ocean. No, it wasn't. It was low 70s.
All right. Yeah, it's not really beach weather. I mean, unless you and your friends want to walk.
We didn't quite have time. And we were hungover in the morning, so we went on lazy mornings, go out to breakfast.
God, don't you wish there was a cure for hangovers?
Yeah, I really would.
Stay tuned for the beer segment.
Yeah, stay tuned, guys. I could use that this week. So it was a great time. Honestly, it really was. The first night, we had a great day. We had a great dinner. We were flirting with these like waitresses after the round was over, and we find this like young club. And we're just like a fish out of water.
Describe young club.
It was like a typical like college, like Coastal Carolina University is right nearby.
Oh, and okay. This is down by Broadway by the beach.
It is Broadway. We were at Broadway at the beach. Yeah.
I'm familiar with this place.
Okay. And I don't know what the name of this place was, but it was just so funny because
it didn't happen to be Margaritaville, did it?
I don't know. No. But it was definitely mostly all under 25-year-olds and just clubby dancing. There's some bachelorette parties, but did you
go to the middle of the dance floor and did you start like waiting for the bass to drop and just picturing Jay, he's just getting low, and then the bass drops and he just was nuts.
I don't know what it was. For some reason that night, sometimes I am in that mood, but like for whatever reason that night I was not in that mood.
Jay goes full Jersey Shore.
I was just in that background, just
gym tan laundry
girls. Oh my God! I just felt like such an old man. I'm like, oh gosh, what's going on now?
Because Jay, I don't want to be the one that sends you this fucfucking telegram.
I know, I'm old.
Stop.
I know
you're old. And telegram. Stop.
But it's funny because we're leaving the bar and we're shit faced and we just talk about all these like this girl, that girl, this drama. Like the stage guy was throwing out people left and right. Any guy that got remotely close to that stage, he was literally escorting them off out of the bar.
Was there like a live band or was it a DJ?
Just a DJ.
Okay. Famous DJ?
No, I don't know. Just a DJ. I can't imagine him being famous. Yeah, but it was just some bro.
Coastal Carolina's own DJ Tasty Cock coming up on stage.
He's like that douchey
because South Carolina
with the perfectly scaped like mid-length beard and the tight red shirt on, and it's tucked in and all that bullshit. Come on,
let's end this fish out of water tale. Yeah. Did you get any?
I got not.
Of course you didn't.
No, there was one saving hope.
I'm picturing you were there with John, who I
No. These are older guys, mid-40s. They're all married with kids. No.
Of course you.
No.
Why are you going to?
It's a golf trip, an old man's golf trip. Come on.
Who were these people?
Here's my cousin and two of our friends. You know, they're older guys. So, you know, and I feel like I kind of were disappointed in them.
I have a better image
because
in my head.
they're supposed to live vicariously through me as the single guy, and I was like the worst.
You're out of the group because they can't live through you anymore.
It's terrible.
Next time you go golfing, you're going to see your replacement there. It's going to be a 25-year-old kid. He's going to be there, and they're going to be like, "What's his?" And you're going to be like,
"I outdrank them though, Dave. I got that to me, but I got you know."
Congratulations.
It was good. I know. I don't know. It hurt my golf game. I'll tell you that. I played like just garbage.
No one cares about how you play golf. Everyone.
But anyway, it was still a good time. And then, of course, today that post-vacation lull hits in, and I do nothing but veg out and like sulk and do laundry and clean and and of course, you know what I do, Dave? I joined Bumble.
What's Bumble?
It's a fucking dating app. It's, you know.
All right, so why
I don't know.
Why the obscure dating app? Why Bumble? Why not?
It's actually supposed to be kind of popular.
Why not Tinder?
Because the girls have all control.
Okay.
It's like Tinder, but the girl has to make the first move. So they don't get any creepy messages from the guys or whatever. It's like they message you first.
It's Sadie Hawkins, the dating app.
And I've done it before, but like I deleted it within a week because I hate it. Like, and I never have those kind of successes. And
Any bites?
I never like it.
Any bites? Anything?
I don't know. I just did it a couple hours ago.
If you didn't get a bite yet in the past couple hours, then you're nothing.
I know. I'm feeling even more down.
Did you put your real age on there?
Yeah, of course.
Because you can get rid of your Reed Richards little.
I don't care about that.
Your little grays and pass for 28.
You know, like, some young girls like the older gray hair, right? And I'm actually.
I don't know how many 25-year-olds like the older gray hair in the club. Well, none.
I know, it's true. And to be honest, this whole past year, the only girls that hit on me is 40 to 50-year-olds, and a lot of them are married.
I think you found your wheelhouse. Better start swinging for the fences with the older ladies now, man.
I thought I had that phase when I was in my early 20s.
No, well, everything comes back around again. So what about you shared?
Unfortunately, I never watched anything though. I was you know, busy last week before the vacation.
Busy doing a whole lot of nothing.
Finishing up at work, extra podcast recordings, and then I was off, and I just literally watched absolutely nothing. And I'm off the remainder of the week, so I will be able to catch a couple movies in theaters and hopefully some things at home. So I will let you guys know all about that next time.
Well, this time, I want to know, have we had any interaction with the bartender? I've had a few questions. We didn't talk about it last week, so some people were wondering.
I thought I said I was not going to mention those.
Yeah, you did. But you know what? When people start asking, Jay.
No, we have not met up.
No, I didn't say met up. Have you been talking to? Has there been any correspondence since that date?
We've talked. Yeah, we've talked. But I mean, we haven't done anything.
So what's so I think what people want to know, like, what's the decision? Are you in? Is this a thing? Is something gonna happen? Are you at least open to something happening? I
don't think it's gonna happen.
No?
I don't think it's gonna happen.
Don't want to videotape it, huh?
A little too many variables. I don't know.
All right. As
of right now, it's a no.
It's a no.
But I feel like it's apparently gonna be an ongoing issue for life. Apparently, if this guy likes to do this, it's probably the offer's on the table. But as of right now, it's a no. Maybe if I get a new apartment somewhere and I feel a little more comfortable with that and it's got good porn lighting going on, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll be open to it.
Jay, describe good porn lighting.
I don't know. I mean, well, technically good porn lighting is good lighting, but I don't like good lighting. I want sexy time lighting. I want like red lights.
night
leather walls and just
Sorry, what pornos are you watching where they have leather walls?
Not pornos, but like I just feel like
leather.
I don't know, like I'm thinking of like kinky clubs. I'm not thinking of like so much. Is
this like cavemen? Like we killed this mastodon. You know what? That'd go great in my porn cave. Put that thing's hide in my porn cave. Like who has leather walls.
It probably wouldn't look good on like an iPhone videotape, but I mean, it's for a husband's viewing pleasure, not so much anybody else's, right? Hopefully not.
Is this like one of his kinks? You know what?
I don't know.
Hun, I really want you to bang that 7 foot that 7 foot tall guy, but I need him to have a dead animal hanging from his wall. I need him to have a leather wall. Is that possible? 50 Shades of Grey didn't have a leather wall. What the fuck are you talking about? Are you talking about like cushions?
There's like
embroidered cushions. Okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay. Why do you need a cushion on the wall? You guys having sex on the wall?
I don't know.
Like, what is going on?
It could get rough. I don't
Who's your interior decorator? You know what this wall needs?
You know what? I'll be honest. There's a club in Philly that I keep envisioning called the Red Room, I think, or Red. Is it the Red Room? I don't know, something like that. It's like a basement kind of club thing, and it has like this weird, like really dark and red lighting, and it's like really sexy and cool. And I don't know. I love it. I love the way it looks and feels.
So if you're listening,
I want my apartment to look like that. Yeah.
If the interior designer for the Red Room in Philadelphia is listening, Jay wants to hire you for his sex den, where he will videotape his sexual encounters with a man's wife for his viewing pleasure.
Hopefully, yeah. No, it won't happen.
Leather walls.
It might happen, but you never know. I don't know.
See, I think what you have in mind for leather walls is completely different. Like, I am just picturing like literally brown leather, like stapled to a wall, and you're
Jesus.
But you're picturing like diner seats. You know what I mean? Like like that kind of something like
brick
that.
walls with that kind of cushion stuff going on.
Yeah, kind of like the walls to an insane asylum.
Okay, you go there. I mean, yeah.
Oh man! So early Patreon supporters,
It'll be comfortable.
We need you to start supporting us on Patreon.
Yes, we do.
so that Jay can afford his leather wall.
Yeah, it's an expensive one. Come on.
All right. Well, you didn't watch anything this week, but I did. I went out to the theaters on my own because Lauren's not really interested in this film, and I saw Rampage.
Crowd of cells and chains that can't run.
Where's George? I need to see him.
He is dangerous.
I think it's time for me to turn the middle around.
We're gonna die!
Probably!
We've created the next chapter in natural selection. Project Rampage works.
You got another one of your little science experiments running around.
What do you mean another one? Incoming!
Sound the alarm, it's time to cross the line.
Of course, the wolf flies.
Stop me. Oh, somebody.
All right, and Rampage. Jesus, man, this film. It's everything that you and I said it was going to be in Trailer Park. It's everything that its trailers look like it's going to be. It's everything that everyone said it was going to be. It was an absolute ridiculous romp, but it was fun. Like I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. You got to be willing to have that fun. Right. Logic goes out the window completely. If you are a scientifically minded person in any way, shape, or form, don't bother watching it because you might just get pissed off at its explanations of science. Creatures get bigger because DNA. End of story. Done.
Wow.
DNA tampering. Done. It is slightly less scientific than Jurassic World was when it was describing the Indominus Rex. It was, like that was vague and you could go with it in that. But like in this, it's just like, yeah, it's this and that. And then this thing came out. And The Rock is such a he's everything you'd expect The Rock to play.
He's a movie star.
Like he is so he's an animal lover, and then he was also an Army Ranger. But then on top of that, he was he worked for an organization that fought poachers. He rescued George, which is all in the trailer and stuff like that. And then all around, he's just a good guy. He's just the nicest guy.
Does it have a good emotional punch to it?
No, not at all. I mean,
I was feeling like it was going to have that kind of crutch.
No. It has far too much action. It has far too much fun with itself to allow you to have like that big emotional punch. Really, some people might get a little emotional towards the end, but I mean, really, it just has way too much fun with itself to allow you to have any type of genuine emotion other than maybe a smile on your face, because it's just so ridiculous you have to laugh at it. It's just one of those things. As far as like the the acting goes, it's all pretty atrocious. except for Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who I absolutely...
Oh, that's right.
I loved in this. I love him in everything. So I'm just pretty sure I just like Jeffrey Dean Morgan. And every time I see his face...
Alexandra Daddario, was she in that as well? I think she was in that other disaster film with The Rock.
She was not. No, you're actually... So what you're thinking of, it doesn't look like her, but Malin Ackerman is in this film. I think that's who you thought her was. And she is the mustache twirling villain, which is a role you don't normally see her playing. She was not good in it, like at all, and she hasn't acted for a little bit of time. So I was surprised to see her in this, at least in anything big. Like she was in a few smaller films in 2016. She showed up in Billions in 2018, and then she's in Rampage. So she took some time off after she had a kid, I think, and now she's back to acting. But this is not your re-entry into films that you want.
In LA, one time I actually had lunch right next to her. She is gorgeous.
Yeah,
my Lord. Ooh,
I don't know. See, I didn't think she was gorgeous.
Not so much anymore. I feel like, but this was like right when she first kind of kicked off, like right after that Ben Stiller stupid movie, where she plays a crazy wife. He marries her really quickly. Then all of a sudden they go on a honeymoon, and she's like nuts.
The Heartbreak Kid.
Yeah, the Heartbreak Kid. It was around that time. Yeah, she was really beautiful.
I'm not shaming her in any way. She is still gorgeous, but she ain't what she used to be. As far as like the way the movie looked, I thought it was good. Like I actually liked the effects. I thought the effects were done well. I just want to know how many helicopters need to crash in a film for it to be a big blockbuster. So there's at least 15 helicopters that crash in this film. Anytime anyone gets in a helicopter, expect that helicopter to crash.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, is it one city too?
It's Chicago at the end, but it doesn't all just take place in Chicago. Actually, that's only
how many
the third.
How many different creatures were there? Were there just like a whole bunch of them, or was it only like a certain?
No. So in the video game Rampage, there's 3 creatures. There is George, the gorilla, and then there is Ralph the wolf, and then there is Lizzie the lizard, and in this case it's an alligator. One person who was in it who I was actually surprised to see, because I didn't see him in any of the promotional stuff, and I didn't exactly follow this movie on IMDb enough. Joe Manganiello was in it.
Oh, for
about 5 minutes, but he was there.
Was it worthy of a role? I mean,
no.
Oh my God!
I wonder if he had a contract to fulfill.
It sounds like it.
It's not like he's some big time actor or anything like that.
But he's big enough to be in something more.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether he had a contract to fulfill. But I mean, I think the person who was the worst actress in it, the worst person in it, was Naomi Harris. I wasn't crazy about her character at all. I kind of felt like she was shoehorned in to explain the sciencey stuff, but also be sort of like a romantic foil to The Rock. And then there's also Jake Lacey, who plays Malin Ackerman's younger brother in it. He's the other side of the coin from the mustache twirling villain, where if you have a mustache twirling villain and she's the big bad guy, she needs a lackey. She needs an idiot. Which way did he go, George? Yeah, every single bad guy needs one of those in this type of cartoonish movie. I wasn't crazy about his character at all either. But like I said, if you like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, go check it out. This movie is painfully mediocre is what it really comes down to. But if you're in the mood for some smash, blow up, and The Rock making quips the whole time, if that's what you're into in the theaters, if you want to see Fast and Furious-esque action but with far less of the panache that has, then this is right up your alley. Go check it out. Why not? It's the only thing else in the theaters.
And it did okay in the theaters.
It did do all right. Yeah. I think I just want, like, is The Rock that big of a box office draw? Like,
he is.
It almost seems like everyone thought Jumanji was going to be a hot pile of garbage, and it turned out to be pretty okay. Pretty good.
Well, box office wise, it was a smash.
Huge. It also came out with nothing else around it. This, I think it's nowhere near as fun as Jumanji was, but I still enjoyed the little bit of time I had with it. I'm giving it a C+, man. It's so middle of the row. But seriously, if you want to get drunk with friends and watch this movie, you're gonna have a good time.
That kind of movie, sure.
If you have nothing else to do on a Saturday night and you're sitting at home, cuddle up with the SO on the couch, you could watch this. It's nothing I'm really anxious to go back to. I'm not going to buy it on Blu-ray, but when it is on HBO or Netflix or anything else, any other streaming services I have, and it's there, I might pop it on for a quick thing, you know?
Yeah.
Just like that woman's doing to you, Jay. I might just pop you on for a quick thing.
Oh my.
Since you didn't watch anything, Jay, I guess it's safe to get into some news stories.
Yeah, let's do it.
First news story that's up. This is one that Jay brought to my attention. James McAvoy and Bill Hader are in talks for It Chapter 2. Now, James McAvoy would be playing Billy, the main character, the protagonist, and Bill Hader would be playing Richie, the mouth, which fits. But for some reason, I don't know why, but like when you see the actor that plays Billy, Jaden Lieberher, like. Yeah, it doesn't look like he would grow up to be James McAvoy. I don't know. For me, like, I know James McAvoy is not like a short guy, but he feels like a short guy. Like, he just feels like this small guy. Like, I pictured Billy growing up as more of like the kind of like a tall, lanky
guy. Yeah, I know. I think there's probably other actors that could fill that role, but they're really putting in some star power behind the sequel.
Oh, don't worry. James McAvoy is a fantastic actor, and I actually would not mind him being cast to play Billy in Chapter 2. I'm not crazy about the Bill Hader one, though.
Well, I still can't get over Bill Hader. Like, I can't take him 100% as a serious actor? As a serious actor yet. He's trying to, but Did
you see the Skeleton Twins?
I know, but it's just not enough, and it's not enough time. And it hasn't been enough quality roles to actually be able to.
Yeah, but he's the name. People
reach certain things like that. I know, and he has this new show out there where he plays a
hitman trying to be an actor
with a heart of gold. Or he's just trying to make it in Hollywood or something like that.
Yeah, he's a hitman with a dream.
So he's trying to go down to different avenues, and he just has I don't know, man. I just don't know if I really want to see him with the quips,
Yeah, I mean,
in a movie with all these other stars around.
Like, I think what they want is someone who could be funny like Richie was, but also bring that emotional punch that they're going to need to do for Chapter 2. So
I just don't love it. I just don't love it.
All right, moving on, because Jay lost words for describing how he feels. Deadpool 2 director has been announced to be directing the Fast and Furious spin-off. You know, the one that Tyrese Gibson went nuts about, that The Rock was that they were putting Fast 9 on hold because Jason Statham and The Rock are getting their own film. Jay, you like this. You like this announcement. You think that this fits.
I think it's a great fit for the property. I mean, it's the perfect director that can do this kind of franchise justice, and I think it fits.
Now,
the
David
tone.
Lynch hasn't done like a whole lot. We haven't seen Deadpool 2 yet.
We haven't, but it's got to be a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, you're basing it off of what we hope Deadpool 2 would be, or at least what we know about Deadpool, and we're hoping that Lynch brings the same type of thing to it.
And if it's the same tone as this movie, that will be like just a big action with comedy quips and things like that. So it'll work. It should work.
It's basically Rampage, but this time,
right,
The Rock is playing the gorilla.
Yeah.
All right. Mark Hamill does not care to return as Luke Skywalker. He just doesn't care. He has no need to ever return as Luke Skywalker. He doesn't feel it's anything that he would ever want to do. There's a good reason, though.
It's because promotional season has been over with the last movie. He could actually speak honestly now.
No, actually, honestly, he says it's due to Carrie's passing. He feels it's disingenuous without her presence on there, and she's one of the few reasons that he was actually really excited to come back was her. Now with her passing, Mark Hamill has no Star Wars left in him. He feels it all died with her, which is one of the saddest things I've ever read, and it made me want to cry again, because every time someone from Star Wars mentions Carrie Fisher's death, I'm like, God damn it. I almost forget. And then it happens again. Happened when I was watching The Last Jedi this weekend. All right. Jake Gyllenhaal puts all the rumors about him playing Batman in Matt Reeves' solo Batman film to rest. He's not doing it. It's not happening. He's not talked to Warner Brothers. It's not happening. He is not going to be Batman. He doesn't want to be Batman. Stop talking about it. It's over.
I just find all these things really interesting. Like how aware are the stars of these gossips and the rumors, and when do they decide to respond to them?
They're aware when their agents make them aware, Jay.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but they all have iPhones. They can easily check up on
I'm sure
news,
they do.
You know, but like,
if I was as famous as Jake Gyllenhaal, I would wake up every day and I would look up Dave leaked nudes. All right, good. None got out. All right, and then Dave news, and then I'd read up on news stories about myself. I just want to see what people are saying, and I don't put it past any of them. It's not egotism. It's you just want to see. But he has put them to bed, and probably because either talks fell through or talks were just never in place. It was just one of those things that someone overheard someone talking to somebody, and they said, you know who we should get to play Batman?
Yeah.
Someone like Jake Gyllenhaal. And then someone went, oh my God, Jake Gyllenhaal's going to play Batman. Did you hear that? And then it becomes this whisper down the lane. That's how Hollywood rumors work.
And I'm not surprised whatsoever. I mean, I was a little disheartened. I didn't really think that was the best casting choice. I think there are more interesting people out there that could do it. And I think Jake has other more interesting things to be doing right now.
All right. So next, Steven Spielberg will be directing Blackhawk, the DC film. More DC news. They just keep pumping fucking DC news out. But apparently Steven Spielberg. So is this a false rumor if you have Steven Spielberg like involved and he's saying, yeah, he's directing it after Indiana Jones 5 and what else?
West Side Story.
He's going to be doing Blackhawk for DC.
I don't know.
He's worked with Warner Brothers already.
Honestly,
we saw Ready Player One, so...
I mean, you tell me. What do you think? Because I don't know this property.
So
I'm just surprised he's actually doing this a little bit.
It's an interesting property for him to take because it's not really a superhero. Like, Blackhawk is not superhero. It's more of like a military organization, like, and he's the protagonist in this military organization. It's kind of like DC Shield in a way. Like, it's more, I don't want to say grounded, but I guess it's more, it's less superhero-y, and it just kind of like exists adjacent to the superhero world. I mean, not a whole lot has really been going on.
I feel like the genre would have to be like something like an action thriller.
Yeah, I mean,
of sorts, you know?
Nothing's really been going on in Blackhawk comics. Like, it's not like Blackhawk is in DC Comics currently. It was originally published by Quality Comics until 1956. Then DC purchased it and ran comics from 1957 to 1984 on it. So it's not anything that has. I would guess that the reason he agreed to this is because, given that it started in the 1940s and then ran until like 1980, it's probably something he read when he was a kid. This is probably something he enjoyed. So I'm just not entirely sure if this type of story speaks to modern comic book fans. I'm not sure if it's anything anyone gets really excited for. They might, because it's Spielberg, but that's why you get excited for it. Maybe that's why you get a name like Spielberg to direct it, because it's like you could name anybody else to direct this film and they would be like, meh. But you say, oh, Spielberg's gonna do it, and you're like, so.
Of course. I mean, Spielberg.
I'm just not entirely sure that this is really gonna pan out. He's got two.
Well, that's what I was thinking too when I first heard this. I'm like, you know what? And that the fact that they're saying after this movie, then he'll do this movie. It's like, well, is he really? Because that's a long time from now, and he could easily put that on the back burner and let that delay until they just find somebody else to do it.
It's at least 3 years.
At least.
Yeah. So it's some ways out there. I just don't think it's not real until they say, Spielberg's Blackhawk's in production. And it's like, okay, I guess it's a thing.
Yeah.
All right. So finally, they have a director for the Harley Quinn spin-off movie.
Very interesting pick.
Yeah. So this is Birds of Prey, and the director is Kathy Yan. Now, just this year, she directed Dead Pigs, and before that, it was basically just one short story called According to Mother. I've never heard of either of these things, so I think she
won like an award at Sundance or something like that. But I don't know. I really don't know much about her. I haven't seen any of her films. I think it's an inspired pick. It's very bold.
What I find a little bit interesting is that Zazie Beetz was in Dead Pigs, and she's playing Domino in Deadpool. So I thought that was somewhat interesting.
Maybe that's where they got their break, as far as like being noticed in Hollywood.
Well, no, this film came out in 2018, so Beats would have she would have already been cast in Deadpool 2 and had been filming it by the time Dead Pigs came out at Sundance this year. So, but it's just it's weird. It shows that they want to go in a certain direction with it. At least,
obviously not big budget,
right? Not big budget. They get a director who has one indie film under them is who they've got for it. So they got a director on the cheap, and
a female Asian,
right? And Dead Pigs is somewhat of a comedy, dark comedy,
right?
But it kind of fits with what I guess what a Birds of Prey would be with a Harley Quinn as the lead. This is really going to be DC's Deadpool-esque movie with Harley Quinn as the lead.
I think so. And it's a little exciting, actually, to be honest, because I think I'm kind of feeling it.
We'll see.
I'm kind of feeling it. I don't know.
We'll see. Production hasn't even begun on it yet.
No, not at all.
And even though this has been announced, they could start looking at dailies from that and go, "Oh, she's fired. We're bringing someone else in." Like they could wind up
that's
refilming
certainly possible.
20% of this film, just like a lot of other films that have been coming out. So that does it for our news stories. Like it or not, this is the shit that's going on out there, and DC is still in the lead for pumping out the most news stories, which is what I keep telling them, stop doing. Just stop doing it. Stop putting out news stories. Wait until you have a film solidified and production is about to begin to be like, this is happening.
It's like their own way of trying to like change the story, change the news, change the conversation, because it's all bad conversations around Warner Brothers for the last couple years.
Even these news announcements, they're so small that they're just kind of like going on. Like no one,
they're little blips.
Birds of Prey is not on anybody's fucking radar. Blackhawk is not on anybody's fucking radar. You know what? Aquaman's not even on anyone's fucking radar because no one has seen a trailer yet. It's a thing. It's out there. But the fact that we haven't seen a trailer for it is extremely troubling. I'm sure in June.
And Juan keeps saying there's no trouble. This is all normal. He keeps defending that he's doing his reshoots now and that he has not put out a trailer yet.
Meanwhile, he was actually fired 6 months ago and it's a scab doing all of his pickups right now.
Well, if that's the case,
not saying it's true, just saying it's possible.
Yeah, you never know.
But it's still troubling. I just don't know. I really, every time I look at all this news and I said, you know what, you got a big problem here, DCEU, you got a big problem, Warner Brothers, and your out is coming soon. Your next film after Aquaman should be Flashpoint, and you should just restart your whole universe and give everybody what they want. End this. End it all. For Christ's sakes.
Oh, God.
Let it be over. Jay, we're going to do something we haven't done in at least a week. You're going to go pour yourself a bourbon neat.
Oh,
you're going to put your square frame glasses on. You're going to curl your mustache just right. Snap your suspenders, ironically, while you wait for that bass beat to drop over in your little indie corner. Jay, you got a little indie ditty that you want to talk about? What is that indie film this week? And I'll do my best to give you a fake synopsis without having any prior knowledge of this turd.
I Heart Huckabees.
Yeesh. So I Heart Huckabees. What I think I Heart Huckabees is it's the story of an average married couple that moves into a fairly affluential neighborhood. Definitely upper middle class. Manicured lawns, picket fences, 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, all the finished basement, big screen TVs, all that stuff. Everyone drives a Lexus or an Audi, but they're not super rich, but that's the type of neighborhood that you're picturing.
Like middle to upper middle class kind of thing.
Exactly. So they move into this neighborhood, and they do everything like everyone else does. I mean, they join the neighborhood watch, right? They go to all the homeowner society meetings and stuff like that, barbecues and all block parties, all this normal stuff that people do in these affluential neighborhoods, and people start asking, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do for a living? Oh, you drive such a great car. What do you do for a living? You guys look great. What's your workout routine? What do you guys do? And, they dodge. Oh, we're in entertainment. This is what we do. Jay, they're porn stars. And everybody in the town slowly starts figuring out they're porn stars. And of course, they run afoul of the one crotchety neighbor who doesn't like them. And then they begin basically like a war with them. But it's okay, because in the end, they're such good people that the entire town gets behind them and defends them against the people that are trying to chase them out, against the Bible thumpers that are trying to chase them out. And they say, you know what? They're good people. Who cares if this lady likes to have her husband put a fucking cum mustache under her nose? They're good people.
They're good people.
They're good people. Good people. Deep throat. Damn it. And of course their name is the Huckabees, and that's why it's called I Heart Huckabees. Jay, is that even close to what this film is about?
No.
Obviously, I do know what I Heart Huckabees is. I just still have to come up with something off the cuff. I actually own this film and rather enjoy it.
Yes, we haven't seen this in a long time, but this is 2004's film that was written and directed by David O. Russell, and it stars a massive ensemble cast. We have a married couple played by Dustin Hoffman and Lily Tomlin, who are, existential kind of detectives of sorts. They're trying to kind of be like therapists in a way, but also be
existentialism is all about like what's real. So they're basically investigating reality.
Yes, it's a very odd picture. Let me just start off right there.
Can I be honest with you? The reason I saw this movie is not Dustin Hoffman. It's not it's not Naomi Watts. It's not Mark Wahlberg. It's not these big names. It's Lily Tomlin. I absolutely I watch.
You don't see her very often.
I know, but I watch Grace and Frankie because I love Lily Tomlin. I don't know what it is about her. She has this face and this presence that's just like a fun spirit that you just kind of want to enjoy.
Very watchable. Yeah. Right. And
and it's a perfect role for her.
It is. It really is. And they get it, kind of caught and intertwined in the middle of this battle between this corporate company with Jude Law playing this executive and his wife Naomi Watts, and and they're...
I was going to say your name. Naomi Watts.
And...
Watts. Naomi Watts.
And they're trying to, develop on this open nature space of sorts. And these activists, Jason Schwartzman and Mark Wahlberg gets involved with it. He's like a dummy firefighter. And they just kind of are all going through these, like... What's it all about?
But he also has
crises.
He also has anger issues, doesn't he? Like he loses his minds at some point. Like I remember
a little bit, like little just temper issues.
I remember him like raging out a few times in the film. It's hilarious.
And like Jude Law has like the opposite thing. Like he tries to get all the best stuff, put on a good show, put on a good front. Thinks he needs like all the good stuff, make it put on the surface level looks like everything is great, but deep down and underneath the things, he's just a mess.
Oh man, I just realized you are Jude Law in this film.
Well, my cousin is, I think.
That's right, Jay. Whenever someone accuses you, just deflect. Because people on the show know your cousin so well.
Nobody does. No, it's true. It's me. It really is me.
No, I'm just joshing with them.
But no, it's just a quirky, a very quirky and fun little movie that has a lot of great moments, a lot of off the wall oddball moments that just are just fun to watch, and it really does open up a weird little conversation.
And barely any degenerate sex, like at all.
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
Which is when me and you always talk about indie films, I always say this is the type of indie film I like. Quirky, a little oddball, like
it's hard to come by anymore, Dave.
With weird characters coming together and stuff like that. Jay's type of indie film is someone dealing with the fact that like they watched their mother raped and murdered in front of them and it affected their entire life, and now they're no, I just talked about 50 Shades. Shit. Yeah, that's Jay's type of movie. No, but this is my type of indie film where it's just quirky enough that you just can't help enjoy it, even if the story isn't getting you there. You just wind up enjoying the characters and their idiosyncrasies.
And it's an easy breeze of a watch. It really is.
Absolutely. Before we move over to our beers, I have to address something, Jay.
Yes.
I was wrong on the last podcast. I said something that was untrue, and I owe people an apology, especially Star Wars fans, and Duty from Shaken Not Nerd, who brought this to my attention. I was bitching about Han Solo being given his gun by Woody Harrelson's character in the Solo trailer, and I mentioned that it was a DL-17, and that's the type of gun it is. Well, Star Wars nerds are Star Wars nerds, and I, of course, heard about it. It is not a DL-17. Han Solo's gun is a DL-44. I got 2 numerical digits wrong.
I was going to say, I'm still surprised that you're wrong.
Well, anyway, Duty, my testicles in the mail. It's yours. You took one of them. I was wrong. And I hope Rob and Mark are listening to this, because while we recorded our movie Cocktail, which will be out in May, they were ribbing me for being the guy that knew everything and had all the answers.
This is
and
true.
It's never wrong. I was wrong. I had a weak moment and I was wrong.
I think people on podcast shows everywhere are going to be cutting out that segment right there, what you just said, and putting it onto their show. Look, everybody. Super Movie Brothers Dave is wrong about some news article or news fact about Star Wars.
God damn it, Duty. I hope this makes it into your news, into your man talk. Or into your news segment. So coming up next, me and Jay got a drunk scene that we're going to be sharing with you. And we also got some beers to review, which is brought to you by our very special and new sponsor. Welcome back to the beer segment. Me and Jay got a few beers that we want to review for you, but before we get into that, Jay, you and I have a new sponsor.
Yes, we do.
I say new sponsor as if we've had other sponsors, but no, this is our first sponsor. I'm very happy to be sponsored by them, because I've talked about how I used their product in the past, so and had good results. So we are being currently sponsored by Blowfish. Blowfish is the only hangover remedy that is FDA approved, which is crazy. That means it's not some home remedy. It's guaranteed to work. It's an actual medicine,
right?
Which is nice. And they actually stand by it behind a money back guarantee. So that's confidence that you can't fucking buy, man.
Hey, you gotta love that, right? And especially, us loving our beers. This works wonders.
That's right. So if you ever have that hangover, you wake up in the morning and you just feel it there, you just pop 2 of these tablets into a glass of water, and then you drink it down once the fizzing stops, and about 15 minutes you feel the results, which is great, because I've had it where I've had to get up, get to work, and you have that foggy feeling, or you just know that you maybe had one too many. You just pop 2 of those in, you drink it down, and it is smooth. It doesn't taste bad. And it doesn't upset your stomach like other
and you're hydrating yourself, so yeah. Boom, win-win.
Yeah, it's win-win. And what it winds up being is about $1.25 per tablet. So if you've ever woken up, hungover, wouldn't you pay like $2 to feel better?
And it costs less than a beer.
Yeah, wouldn't you feel $2 to feel better? I would pay $2 to feel better. I've had those days where I woken up and I'm like, oh, this is rough, and taking this took it right out of me. So if you're interested in picking up some Blowfish for yourself, if you're like me and Jay and you enjoy your drink, but you sometimes enjoy it a little bit too much, head over to 4hangovers.com. That's FOR hangovers.com, and use the promo code SMBFish for your 15% off. All right, Jay, now down to our business. We're reviewing some beers, man.
We are.
But before we get into that, of course, we have to do this week's MCU drunk scene.
Whoa, what are you doing?
This vermin speaks of affairs he knows nothing about.
That is true.
He has no respect.
That is also true. Hold on. Keep calling me vermin, tough guy. You just want to laugh at me like everyone else.
Rocket, you're drunk, all right? No one's laughing at you.
He thinks I'm some stupid thing. He does. Well, I didn't ask to get made. I didn't ask to be torn apart and put back together over and over and turned into some little monster.
Rocket, no one's calling you a monster.
He called me vermin. She called me rodent. Let's see if you can laugh after 5 or 6 good shots to your frick.
I absolutely love that scene. Because we've seen superheroes getting drunk in the MCU before, but we've never seen them get drunk and start beating the shit out of each other, or at least attempting to.
Yeah.
And of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy, they're all bad guys. So I don't think Rocket really would have thought twice about plugging Drax full of
No,
holes.
I don't think so. And it's actually one of the things where, like, after a little while, it actually starts to get emotional.
Right.
You know, you can see, like, it goes funny, it's silly, and then all of a sudden, you know, you can see that it really bothers him, and he's getting really worked up and emotional about it. And you start to feel for him.
Rocket's that type of guy that you go drinking with that can make fun of himself, but if you make fun of him, he gets pissed off and he gets the beer muscles. Like that's exactly who Rocket is. Like Rocket gets butthurt very easily.
Tread lightly, yeah.
But everybody has a friend like that, which I find hilarious that they put it in the film. But yeah, everyone does have a friend like that, and I do love this scene. I love this movie. It was obviously in my top 5 MCU films that we did a couple weeks back. So I just thought it was appropriate, since we're doing MCU drunk scenes, to bring this one up. Jay, you have a beer that you're going to be reviewing for us. What do you got there, man?
I have Stone Brewing and NOFX.
NOFX. No effects.
No effects.
They're a band. They're a band, Jay.
Oh, see, you know, you should work for a radio company. Pumpkin Drublick. I like the name, Pumpkin Drublick. It's a hoppy lager, 5.8 alcohol by volume.
It's a play on words, Jay, because No Effects is a punk band. Yeah.
Well, it's got a punk-inspired can design as well.
I do like the can design. But what do you think of that beer, man?
It's it's, you know, it does have that kind of hoppy lager taste to it, but I've had a lot of really good hoppy lagers in the past, and this is not quite
Victory
one of them.
Homegrown lager is the homegrown is just, it's a hoppy lager, and it's really fucking good, and it puts that one to shame. Unfortunately, it's not that one's bad.
It's not, and I'm not going to give it a bad review. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because I think, you know, it's not a bad beer. It's just nothing special, and I don't want to give it a 2.5 because I don't think it's quite middle of the road. But it does have a little dry, hoppy aftertaste that's a little on the bitter end, and you know, it's just not quite my style.
It's got that super clean, crisp, like lager flavor up front, and then the IPA hits you on the back end, and it is really bitter. It's really bitter. Your first couple sips, I mean, you adjust to it. Those first couple sips, it's a little rough with the bitterness, and it's not
a bit rough.
And it's not that
some people like that stuff, and
it's not crazy bitter like a double IPA or anything like that. It's just not what you would expect from your first taste of it, that to have that on the back end. So, and then I am drinking the Rivertown Brewing Company out of Export, PA. I am drinking their Jaman IPA. And it is obviously Jamaican inspired, given that the hop on it looks an awful lot like a marijuana leaf. And it does have that danky smell. And it does have that bit of a dank flavor. It's nice. It's juicy. It's got a little bit of a hint of like grapefruit rind and stuff like that. But I really, really enjoy it.
I love it too.
Really dry hop, nicely hopped up front, perfectly bitter on the back end. It's a nice, juicy marriage, man. I honestly, I think you're right. Before you told me I should give it a 4.5, I was thinking more of like a 4. I think it's a 4.25.
Okay.
I think it is. It's really good.
I had a small taster and a couple sips of it. I was really blown away by it. Not just the notes that you were describing, but like overall, just very drinkable and juicy overall. And there was not a note in there that did not hit me the right way. So I was really loving that.
Awesome. So make sure that if you have the ability to pick up a Rivertown Session IPA, the Jaman, that you get out there and do it, because
it's a cool can. You know, it'll be a fun beer to drink.
It's just real nice, and it's only 5% alcohol by volume. So with warmer weather coming, you might want a 6-pack of these sitting next to you while you're sunbathing in the backyard.
Indeed.
So coming up next, I am going to be joined by Wes from ViaVHS and John from Now In Technicolor for MCU Phase 2 Lightning Round. So stay tuned. Welcome back for our Marvel retrospective look. This week, I am still joined by Wesley Younger of the ViaVHS Podcast. How are you doing, Wes?
I'm so good. So good. And
John from Now in Technicolor, or Show Enough John, as we all like to call him.
Yeah.
How you doing, John?
Hoy hoy. Doing pretty good. Got my dick in my hand. Ready to jerk off about these films.
And the kids are sleeping in the same room, right?
Oh yeah, you know it. I can't maintain being a terrible father without doing some stupid shit like that.
That's right, man. And I just heard that you promised your daughter to someone when she comes of age for just for a hit of crack. Is that right?
Well, it was an Indian fella, and it's 14, and it's a prearranged marriage, and I got a cow out of it.
That's not bad. That is a pretty good dowry, sir. Not bad.
It's
not too
cow
bad.
was their uncle, so
I think you should have held out for the goat though. Cow and a goat.
Yeah, if I'd have got a cow and a goat, I'd have been doing pretty fucking swell, man. Think of all that goat milk.
You still got a son.
That's true. But he's going to milk the cow though, so.
And tonight we are going to be getting into Marvel Phase 2. So last week, this is going to go very similarly. We are going to each take a film. We are going to start off, I believe last time we let off with John with the Avengers. So it comes back to me now for Iron Man 3. Mm-hmm. And each one of us, we're going to get 5 minutes to talk about each film. And then once 5 minutes is up, we hit stop and we got to move on to the next film. So jumping right into it, I begin with Iron Man 3. So Iron Man 3 is the first time that Jon Favreau is not directing an Iron Man film. Shocking, I know, but we got someone who was pretty fucking awesome, and I was really excited to get them. It was Shane Black, the writer behind my favorite 80s action films, Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2. Didn't pan out quite like I thought it would, but this film winds up being a precursor to The Nice Guys. I really felt like it's like if Shane Black was given an R rating with Iron Man 3, I think we would have said it was one of the best superhero films ever made, hands down.
I can agree with that.
Tony is shell-shocked. He is suffering from PTSD after his time in the wormhole after Avengers, and this is the first film after Avengers, so it kind of had like a nice little tie-in with that. However, he took a weird roundabout journey back to fighting the villain by going through Kentucky, which was a storyline that I was not crazy about. I just felt like Shane Black's like, you know what Iron Man would have a lot of fun with? A little kid.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good news and bad news about Iron Man 3. Really, the year 2013, there's a lot of good news and bad news for Marvel in general. The bad news is this was the worst year for Marvel. This was the worst. The good news is if this is your worst, you're doing pretty well because they're still fun. They're still pretty good movies.
Nah, the worst is yet to come.
The worst film is still probably yet to come. Actually,
that's definitely true. But I'm saying even if these two films that came out this year were the worst that Marvel has to offer, that's still saying they're still in decent shape. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things not to like about this movie. It was filmed in North Carolina, so there's that.
There's that. Congratulations, Wes. I know you guys don't get that a lot. George has been stealing up all the Hollywood fame.
They stole it all from us because we had a great film thing, and then they stole it from us because they're assholes or our governor messed it up.
Hey, y'all got one of the greatest films ever created.
What's that?
TMNT.
That was in North Carolina. That's true.
Yes, it was.
And Last of the Mohicans in The Color Purple.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, solid films.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Aldrich Killian. So obviously this Iron Man 3 its storyline is taking from one of the absolute best Iron Man storylines in any of his solo books, Extremis, which I believe was written by Warren Ellis. And Extremis was, basically Tony Stark develops technology for the Iron Man suit to live inside of him. That technology eventually gets out, and they basically learn to create super soldiers out of Iron Man tech. Now, in the film, they do it a little bit differently. The woman that he's sleeping with at the time, he winds up giving her the formula that allows her to perfect the Extremis formula, thus creating basically unstable humans, both mentally and physically, in that they can literally turn into a bomb at any point.
Yeah, they literally explode.
So yet again, we're given another story where Tony's creation, something that Tony gave to the world, is being used against the world. It seems to be a theme with Iron Man that whatever he makes will eventually become bastardized and used against the world. A man who has sworn off making weapons just can't stop making weapons.
It does seem like a lot of his storyline kind of comes a lot around full circle, a lot like that, where it's no matter how far he tries to get himself away from that particular life that of the weapons, no matter what, he always seems to circle back around to it voluntarily or involuntarily.
Absolutely. And badass
this is
moments.
where we also kind of start getting the like Tony Stark is the center of the Marvel universe kind of thing. Like he is the cause of a lot of it.
Badass moments. Tony goes to a hardware store and makes himself some fucking weapons and then uses them. And that was awesome. Him and Rhodey escaping the mansion and meeting Trevor Slattery, who is the actor who is playing the Mandarin, which I know everyone groans about that, but I still loved. It's funny.
It's amusing.
Did you not off? And speaking of drug use, and then did everyone buy Gwyneth Paltrow going all extremis and saving the day?
I'll say she's the sex symbol for this movie. That's as far as I'm going to go. I didn't like it.
No, I didn't like
but
any of that.
She pulled off the sports bra then. Yeah. I do want to say one thing real fast though, if I can. The narrative and aesthetic callbacks to Lethal Weapon 1 and 2 in this film. I didn't notice it until last time I watched it, but there's a lot of similar shots to Iron Man, to Lethal Weapon 1, and then narratively it follows really close to Lethal Weapon 2. Pretty true.
Absolutely.
Kind of crazy.
That is time, but thank you for getting us there, Wes, because it is written and directed by Shane Black. So it has its moments for sure for that reason alone. All right, next film up on the list is Thor Dark World, and we come to you, Wes, for that one.
This film
don't feel like you have to use up the whole 5 minutes, gentlemen.
Oh, this film sucks. This film sucks. I mean, okay.
Just sucks?
No, it's the worst. It's the worst Marvel. It's the worst Marvel Cinematic Universe film. I think if you were to take a poll of everybody and you just take an aggregate score of what everybody thought, not everybody's going to think this is the worst. But if you were to take all their scores combined, this would
hands down worst film.
Yeah, this would be the worst one. It still had some cool moments. It had some cool moments. Not many.
My coolest moment comes from Loki when Thor goes down to visit him to tell him that the mother's dead. And he's standing there pompous with his robes on, and like he's looking very regal and stuff like that. And Thor kind of tells him enough of the tricks, and all the imagery fades away. All of Loki's magic fades away, and you've seen a torn apart jail cell with stains all over the place because he's been torturing himself over his mother's death. And I think that's the first time that you were like, Loki's more than just a villain. This is the first villain where he's not after a singular goal of destruction. He does still wrestle with the fact that he was raised by that woman, even though she wasn't technically his mother. And she was the only one that ever showed him that type of love. And that's one of the things that I was like, God, that's why he is the best villain. Like that, just that moment right there was so good. And everything with Loki in the film was good. Everything without Loki, though, every time he was on Midgard or Earth, it was just awful. Just awful. And I really hated the fact that Jane did not die in this film. I wanted her to get ripped apart by the ether just to get her out of her contract.
I will say
that would have been great.
Thor himself as a character, I actually prefer him in this film than the original Thor. Now, I think the first Thor movie's better, but I think he's a better character. They have taken away the whole fish out of water thing. That's not as dialed in this one. And the character's less, over the top. And I think, it definitely takes it to the next level in the next Thor movie. But that's one good thing to say about Ragnarok. So, I mean, not Ragnarok, but the Dark World. But it's the weakest one. The Dark Elves are.
You get more character.
Well,
they don't even
explain the Dark Elves. Yeah, they were an enemy that Odin's father what was his name? Hog or Boar. That Odin's father Boar fought millennia ago, and they've been gone, and they existed before the universe, and they want to return the universe to a dark world, where they can rule over nothing, I guess, is their plan. And it's just like there was no characterization for the villains whatsoever. I didn't even get to know that villain. I just knew that when I saw a white-faced elf show up, I'm like, he's not good. That is not a good guy.
Yeah,
because
it was Heimdall taking down the ship was pretty badass, though. Sorry to interrupt, but that was pretty cool. That was really cool. But yeah, there was just so much in the film that I was just like, none of this makes sense, and including the very ending of the film, like that final fight was. It was pretty lackluster, Yeah. I mean, we were literally dealing with an extinction level event with a ginormous spaceship that was crashing into London. No other Avenger to be seen. Yeah. That was that even gets me with, all the films in Phase 2. That's where they really kind of messed up. I think once the Avengers happened, you either have to have them in a forlorn place, which Dark World kind of does,
or you have to explain them away in some plausible way, which they actually did in a lot of deleted scenes in Avengers: Age of Ultron. They explained some of this stuff away, but they were all wound up on the cutting room floor because Joss Whedon's original cut of Avengers: Age of Ultron was 4 hours.
Yeah, because it was a giant commercial in a lot of ways.
But
we'll get there.
We'll get there. But this film just wound up being so blah. I just think the only thing intriguing about it was the very ending when you find out it's Loki on the throne and not Odin.
Yeah.
That's the most intriguing part of the film.
The Thor-Loki dynamic, they should have just made a movie about that again, which would have been fine with me. And to have him on Asgard all the time. Jane is doing her science stuff in Science Land. And
science stuff.
Yeah. And then
I like Science Land.
Yeah. So if you pick one to skip, this is it.
And I almost did. Like, me and my wife were going through them before we started doing this, and I really wanted to skip this one, and she would not let me. She's a purist, more so than I am, and we did it. I made it through it. I fell asleep a few times, but we did it. And that is
my head.
That is time. We don't need to talk about this film too much. This film was nothing really good to say about it. Yeah, but there's not enough to say really bad about it. It is what it is. If it's on FX on a Sunday afternoon and you catch it, not a bad Sunday afternoon, but there's better ways to spend your time.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, much better.
All right, John, you are getting my favorite MCU film that was in our top 5 MCU films.
He gets all the good ones.
He gets some great ones.
He planned it out this way. He actually threatened to quit this recording if we didn't give him all the good ones.
I said I was going to completely put my dick back up and turn my mic off and just walk away.
I remember that now.
Actually, what you threatened to do was pinch your children and wake them up from sound sleep. That's what you threatened to do.
Yeah.
I did. I was like, I'm going to make them yell at the mic. Just whole recording, just them yelling.
All right, John, Winter Soldier, go.
Winter Soldier, again, the return of another Marvel superhero, Captain America, and this one's fantastic. I mean, this is literally one of the greatest films that they've done. I mean, the introduction of Bucky again as the actual Winter Soldier was just so damn fantastic. Like
that car chase,
you couldn't help but love it. The car chase,
the smoke.
The car chase, the battle, the actual fight between him and Chris Evans was just so damn good. And then, of course, you get Anthony Mackie as Falcon coming in on this. And I mean, I loved every one of the characters in this. I thought the story they did was just fantastic.
You know, should be noted, the first Russo brothers film with the Marvel Universe. Knocked it out of the park their first time at the gate. And this is a film of nuance. And the nuance is what really makes you drawn in and fall in love with it. You know, that moment, the first time he meets Anthony Mackie in the first couple minutes and he's running laps around him. Anthony Mackie's quips to him as Falcon. as Sam Wilson was some of the best stuff. And then I loved when he hands him the list of things to go through. You know, he tells him about Marvin Gaye and the album that came out in 1973. It'll change your life, you know. And the movie ends basically with that album playing. And you know, it really gets into the idea of war and what it is to be the soldier. You know, he was called the soldier all throughout Avengers, and here we are, you know, finally meeting Captain America again after he's been frozen out of ice, and he wasn't thrown right into action like he was with Avengers. You know, we're seeing him live with himself and live with who he is and what he's been through, and we're seeing that there is some sort of scar there. There's some sort of calcification that's going on him, and he is becoming a harder person. His virtues are there. His everything about him is still there, but it's becoming calcified. It's getting harder. You know, he is suffering a little bit of PTSD from what he's done. You know, he talks to Sam about how he can't sleep in a bed. He sleeps on the floor because that's what he's used to.
Yep.
I have to be honest, the first 5 minutes of this film, where I liked, you know, when he was running laps around Falcon, but some of the dialogue there at the first, I'm like, this is going to be too cheesy for me. This ended up it's definitely in my top 3 Marvel films for sure. The fight scene in the elevator is badass. The scene with, Nick Fury getting, cornered, in the streets of DC, that's badass. Hey, you know what? We're going to throw Robert Redford in this film. We're going to get another A-list.
Yeah. I mean, Robert Redford only did it because his grandchildren were in love with these characters, and he was offered it, and he was like, how could I not?
Yeah. I mean, these films, when you look at the overall cast from top to bottom, it is insanely impressive. And this film is no different. And, you know, I like him kind of going back in time and reliving everything. He's really in tune with the fact that he's, I think, even better than the Avengers. It really shows that how he is a fish out of water. He's in a different place.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot to resolve with this. But great action, though.
Even down to that moment that Black Widow kisses him on the escalator, right? Like he's from the 40s, man. People just didn't kiss casually, you know. It wasn't something he's used to.
And they boil
ways to continue to capitalize on the whole fact that he is indeed from that different time period, and the way that things are so much different, and that he still hasn't quite adapted to that is really well done.
It is, and yeah, I mean, we can't say it enough. The action is just fan-fucking-tastic.
Oh, it is.
But we also get our first mention of Stephen Strange in this film. And the realization that Sitwell, who has been a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent that showed up in Avengers, and he showed up on the S.H.I.E.L.D. television show, was an agent of Hydra. And that was one of the things that I loved. I loved that the villain wasn't so much a villain. It was more of an ideal. It was more of the fact that Hydra was allowed to exist as a cancer inside of S.H.I.E.L.D. and destroyed everything that Nick Fury had worked towards, and all of his clandestine ways and everything that he did that flew in the face of everything Captain America stood for was all crumbling down around him. And I love that scene in that bunker, towards the end of, towards just before that third act begins, the final fight begins, when Steve is just like, no, if I'm doing this, if I'm helping you, then S.H.I.E.L.D's done too. It all goes. It's all gone. All of it. And I was like, yeah, that is what a perfect way for this. And it shakes the MCU to its core, because after that, without S.H.I.E.L.D., what are the Avengers? They're directionless. They are now their own autonomous body that are pretty much policing the world without any type of regulation. S.H.I.E.L.D. made them legitimate. Without S.H.I.E.L.D., they're no longer legitimate, which sets us up for Cap 3 perfectly. And that's time.
Yeah, it
unfortunately. Does. Winter Soldier, though, we had to mention that real fast. The Winter Soldier's in the Winter Soldier.
I mean, he is the most badass part. I mean, for me, that's the least shocking part of the film, because I at this point, I was very steeped into Captain America comics. I read Ed Brubaker's run of, and issue 1 starts off with the Winter Soldier. So, the first 12 issues are the Winter Soldier, are this storyline pretty much. And they're fantastic. But I think having him realized in real life was just done so fantastically. And he fights like Cap, but like the animalistic version of Cap, which is one of the things that I love about him. And Sebastian Stan's Winter Soldier is still my favorite character in this MCU. I absolutely love him. He doesn't show up a whole lot, but when he does, fuck, it's awesome. It's so awesome. All right, I get to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. So for me, Guardians of the Galaxy are where everything changed for the MCU, right? Like, we've been having these stories that take place on Earth. We've been having these stories that the furthest thing we got into to crazy galactic was anything that was going on in Asgard and with Thor.
Yep.
But this film literally flipped the Marvel universe and what people thought about comic book films on its head. It took people with very little superpowers and made a superhero film around them. It took the idea that you could have so much fun with these films to the next level. And it truly set itself apart as an ensemble comedy cast of characters. And it wasn't so much funny for what they were saying or what they were doing. It was just more funny because of their characters, their character and its existence and its juxtaposition to other characters in the film are what winds up being funny. Drax is only funny because he doesn't understand colloquialisms. He doesn't understand anything but literal. Why would I run a finger across my neck? And I think, James Gunn, the writer and director of Slither, could be the only guy to realize this. And I feel like Marvel's the only place where they could be like, you know what? That's what you want to do? All right. Yeah, we're down.
This is Marvel having giant balls. Like, at this point they've made, Iron Man 3 was pretty bad. It made $1 bajillion, okay? At this point, they made Avengers, they made all this stuff, and Marvel's like, you know what? Let's get that, what's that thing we have with, there's like the tree and the raccoon, Guardians of the Galaxy? Yeah, let's make that. Are you serious? Yes. They do it.
It's kind of like, let's take one of the least known groups that we have in the entire comic book genre as a whole in Marvel and say, let's see if we can bring this to the forefront and see if we make people like it.
Oh yeah,
it's brilliant in a way as well because it's so niche for Marvel fans. It's almost a blank slate. They can make it what they want.
Exactly.
They can change it in the way they want without that fanboy pushback that winds up being kind of like a tightrope they have to walk. And this one, the tightrope was much larger. They were just out to make a fun film. And like I was telling my wife when we were rewatching it just the other night, I was like, you know what? This might be my favorite final fight of any of the Marvel films. And she's like, why? And I was like, because it ends in a dance-off.
Yeah, it ends in the most absurd possible way that it could end.
I'm distracting you turd blossom.
Everything that happens in the film, I don't think that you could have actually gotten a better ending than that.
No,
because it really does kind of culminate everything that's just happened through the film and just place it right there at the end with a dance off. And you don't even look at it and go, what the fuck? You're like, you know what? This makes sense. This makes a lot of sense.
And it like just the way they set up the whole like, Peter, take my hand in the beginning of the film, and he refuses to take his mother's hand because he feels, as a child, he feels slighted by his mother because she's leaving him. He understands that she's dying, but still he feels he doesn't know how to balance that emotion.
He doesn't know how to actually intake it and deal with it. So his kind of general way to deal with it is just automatically blame her a little bit.
Exactly. So his character stays stalled as a child forever because he's never had anyone to really raise him. He was raised by literal space pirates.
True. Very much.
Like they were all man children as well. It's like Peter went off to Neverland, and that's what and he is Peter Pan. He stayed a child.
And though his body got older, his mind never really got any more growth to it.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure that that parallel was purposeful by James Gunn, but that's the first time I picked up on the fact that he is Peter Pan in Neverland, pretty much. But
that is well stated. That is well stated. And like we stated earlier, though, this was like one of the cleanest slates that they could do with this film, because up until this point, you had stuff that fanboys could literally pick apart. If they didn't like something, what they did like up to this point. And then when you come into this, even a lot of Marvel fanboys are like, okay, well, I don't know a lot about this.
Right. I mean, if you were into Civil War in 2004, when that comic book series was coming out, there was a crossover series that was going on at the exact same time called Annihilation, where the Guardians of the Galaxies were the center of that story. They were taking out Thanos. That was the whole point of it. And if you didn't read that because you were too busy reading Civil War and you didn't buy a lot of comics, you missed it. You missed the Guardians. And they weren't quite like this. They didn't start becoming like this until James Gunn took them over. And we're actually running out of time here, but the moment of, you know, the relationship between Rocket Raccoon and Groot and the way Groot grows on everybody is just it's my favorite thing. I still cry every time he says "We are Groot." Yeah.
I mean, it's still really, it hits you in the feels.
All right, that's time. But before we move on to the next one, Wes didn't get a whole lot to say there. Wes, what are your Guardians of the Galaxy?
Oh, I like the music a lot, and it's amazing that they made a film that was from an obscure property like this, and it can outgross some like Justice League.
Right.
Not this one, but the second one.
Did you know that Batman and Superman were in Justice League? The two most recognizable literal symbols in the world. You can go to a third world country and you can show them a symbol. You can show the Superman S and they'll go Superman because it's a recognizable brand symbol.
It's like they're with Budweiser and Coca-Cola.
Right. But if you also show them a raccoon standing next to a Groot, standing next to a talking like a man tree, they might also be able to tell you who they are now too because of this film. Yeah. So
it's insane.
Wes, you get the next film in Marvel Phase 2, and that is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
I think history's starting to kind of look on this film a little bit better.
I'm coming around on it. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I watched it twice this week because my wife fell asleep the first time we watched it, so we watched it again when she the next night, and I enjoyed it far more. This is probably my fourth and fifth viewing of it. I enjoyed it a whole lot more.
Yeah, it's definitely got its problems. It gets a little muddled down in areas and you could, like we were mentioning before this, the original cut of this film was like forever long. And so there was a lot of things that they were doing. A lot of people criticized this film for being a commercial for the next phase, which if any film you don't want to be the commercial for the next phase is one of the Avengers films. That's supposed to be the culmination of what's going on up to that point. So there's a lot of flaws with it, but the dynamics between Tony Stark and what happens to him, and, you know, it really sets up Civil War. It really sets up everything going forward.
But go ahead. But it is a culmination, right? It is a culmination of Tony's story. Tony's story comes to a head. He's made his last weapon that will be used against the Earth. Even though he never meant it to be a weapon, he meant it to save. He's finally made the last one that will do this. After this, he's done. You know, he's done. He realizes all of his flaws, and he winds up creating the perfect protector of the Earth, the Vision.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I mean, in the end, it's a culmination of him creating not only like the last weapon of destruction against the Earth, but it's also his last culmination of creating the weapon that has the possibility of saving the Earth at the same time.
Right. After this, he'll just be a political activist who plots against his friends.
And admittedly, I think some of the issue with the people with thinking that it's like a giant commercial or for the rest of what's about to happen in the next phase happens to be because it's not really the end of the phase 2.
Yeah.
It's like just before the end of phase 2. So you got that. And at the same time, I mean, my only real big criticism with it, other than Quicksilver, is literally just the fact that
those accents were terrible, by the way.
Oh yeah,
I'm glad they dropped Elizabeth Olsen's accent for Civil War when they got there.
Thank you. Yes, my biggest criticism really is the fact in connection with the film that I'm about to talk about after this is the fact that Tony is the one that creates Ultron, and that's where my fanboyism just kind of like took over a little bit, because I went,
You wanted Pym. You wanted Pym to do it.
I wanted Pym so bad to be the one to create Ultron because he creates Ultron in the actual comic books.
That would have been better, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it could have set you up for Iron Man better to have this be the idea that Pym had way back in 1989 or 1990 or something, and him to have written the source code for it, and Tony to have picked it up and then made it a reality, and then you still get Hank Pym in the story, and that would have satisfied you
I would have
and
even
the story.
satisfied with that a little bit more than the way that they did it, because at that point I became a little bit more irritable about the fact I'm like, okay, so why the hell is Tony the cause of every single thing that happens? I was like, can we not give somebody else just a little bit of credit to this?
Because he's our center, therefore he has to be flawed.
He is. I mean, it's just like I said, my fanboyism just kind of took over a little bit for that one particular thing, and like you said, I would have felt a lot better about it if Pym had been the one to originally had the idea and then had the source code, and then Tony just kind of finish it out.
Wes, we all know the pitfalls of this film. What are some of your favorite parts of the film, though?
I like Scarlet Witch a lot. That's one of the best parts of the film. The Quicksilver thing didn't work really from the beginning, but I love the opening scene. I think the opening scene is awesome.
Well, it's good that they dropped them, because in the same year we got the better Quicksilver in Days of Future Past.
Oh, by far.
Yes.
It's very rare Marvel loses out on to the other part of Marvel, but in that area it really, really did. The better Quicksilvers than the X-Men.
Absolutely. And Hawkeye gets his first characterization in this film.
Yeah, Hawkeye gets, you get to go to the farm, which I had to be honest, now I'm in the minority on this. I actually don't like any of that. I don't like. Oh,
you don't like the family stuff? You don't like
Nah.
See, I really enjoy it because it was the first time, like, they were showing Hawkeye quipping, like, a little bit. And for me, Clint Barton, he is the guy who quips in the Avengers. Like, he is the Spider-Man of the Avengers. He's the guy that cracks the jokes. He is the childlike one of them. And in all the films, they've kind of made him like more of like this gruff guy on the outside. And this one, they kind of allowed him to be that a little bit. And they
give you a little bit more character growth out of
I
him
laugh
in
a
this
little
film.
bit when he points the arrow at Quicksilver and he goes, "No one would know. No one would know."
All that I like. I just don't like the homestead aspect. I would have liked it better if maybe if you want to grow Hawkeye, maybe he's the one who saves everybody and he takes them to a special place, but it doesn't have to be his house. And it kind of just got campy and weird. And then all of a sudden Nick Fury's there, and the whole thing just didn't work for me. It's not bad.
It did come together in a very Ex Machina type way, where everything was far less explained. And it should have been a stronger film for being the Avengers, and it should have ended Phase 2. Ant-Man should have come before this, but it didn't. And that is time. We are moving on to Ant-Man, which, John, you're going to take it away.
All right, so Ant-Man. This is the first introduction of Ant-Man into the actual Marvel Cinematic Universe. It should have been Hank Pym, but we didn't get Pym. We got
a badass Pym. You got a badass scene with Pym in the first seconds of the film, and that was awesome.
During the original setup for Ant-Man, before I knew that they were actually going to have Pym, at least in the film, I was a little bit like, well, why the hell aren't we starting out with Pym? And then when I actually watched the film, I was like, okay, well, I can deal with this.
As a comic book fan, what is your attraction to Pym? The guy who beats his wife? Because for me, Scott Lang is the better Ant-Man,
it's not so much.
And he was Ant-Man longer in the comics than Pym was.
No, admittedly, don't get me wrong. It's not so much the idea that I think Hank Pym was the better Ant-Man.
I just speculated that you liked Pym because he took a slap at his wife a few times.
Oh yeah, just once or twice. Especially as the Yellow Hornet.
Yellow Jacket, yeah.
Yellow Jacket.
Which is the villain in this film.
It is actually, but the thing is, Scott Lang's actually the better Ant-Man. It's just the beginning of the fact that I was like, well, we're getting all of the original starting characters for each of one of these Marvel heroes. Why don't we start out with Pym? And I think it's a lot of the reason they skipped that is because of the wife slapping thing.
Well, and the fact that the feed for your need will be met in Ant-Man 2, because they will be going back in time to tell a little bit more of the story between between him and Michelle Pfeiffer, who will play Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, and you will get it again in Captain Marvel, which will take place in the early 90s. So Hank Pym will be an active
I'm going to enjoy that. Maybe that's the way they just wanted to set it up for the actual setup. I don't know if that was their original vision, but you know, I can live with that. Now, mind you, Paul Rudd is Scott Lang. I immediately going into this film, I was not super excited about it, but when I came out, I was like, I really enjoyed this.
So here's the thing. This movie lives and dies on its comedy because it was written by Edgar Wright, directed by Peyton Reed, who took over after Wright had filmed over half of the film. And Marvel was not happy with the tone that Edgar Wright was going for. Apparently it was too dark for them. They wanted a more lighter comedy out of him, and he had a more darker story to tell with comedy elements in it. Peyton Reed takes over, lightens it up a little bit. Paul Rudd winds up, becoming a comic relief of the film as well as your star. But I think this film lives and dies on Michael Pena.
Yeah.
And the comedy he brings.
Yeah. I'll give you that. I'll definitely give you that.
I will say this about Ant-Man, and here's my favorite contribution to the Avengers and the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. Paul Rudd. We're going to throw Paul Rudd in there. That's great to me. They need more. Now, I have to be honest, as just a character itself, Ant-Man is my least favorite character they've introduced so far. In terms of the ones that's gotten their own solo movies. But I'm really crazy about Paul Rudd being part of the MCU. That part's awesome to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
But I think really who they added in this film that winds up becoming far more important, greater, down the line for the MCU is Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne, who will eventually become the Wasp.
Yes, I'm so excited to see
the
Wasp.
most important thing that they added into this, because when you think of the Avengers, even when you watch like some of the Avengers cartoons, Ant-Man's absent. It's the Wasp who's there. She's the one
Wasp is definitely there a lot more.
She's the one that continued on as the Avenger. Even after Pym was done. I mean, Pym always came with an ego with him about his own intelligence, and
he spent all his goddamn time changing who he was from Ant-Man to Giant Man to Yellow Jacket to
and making Hawkeye Goliath and all this other shit.
it was a whole bunch of shit. So he had a lot of other stuff going on at the same time. So he was always in and out.
In the end, I look at this film as a fun romp. Like that's what it was. It was a fun romp in the MCU. We got a new character out of it, who winds up playing a much more fun role later on in the films, more so than he does even in his own film. He works well with the other characters fitting in, but giving him his own movie, it was a little rough, for me, but I still enjoyed it. I love the scene where he fights Falcon. I love that. I just like the idea. I
always forget that happens.
It's such a fun
so much
scene.
Fun. But really for me, when I watch this film, it's Michael Pena for me. It's just I love the scene where he pulls up. He's like, "Yo, we got to help Scott," and they see all the cop cars. He's like, "Yo, hold up, back it up, keep backing it up."
And I don't know.
We'd be remorse if we didn't, mention the Thomas the Train scene,
right? I mean,
which is amazing. Scene, which is clever.
I feel like, when Edgar Wright, I felt like that was a scene that Edgar Wright wrote. And
I agree.
When you pitch it to Marvel, you say the final fight happens on a Thomas the Tank Engine train track, and they're tiny, but then Thomas the Tank Engine becomes huge. And Marvel went like, my God. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're doing it.
That sounds amazing. We're doing it.
That's the test footage you shot, right? And that is time. And that's going to do it for...
I'm going to use my extra 10 seconds to say this. I would have actually liked Ant-Man to have come before the Avengers.
Me too.
And then we could have actually got...
Right.
That way we could have actually gotten the whole thing with Ultron.
So
at that final for that.
Right. At that final scene, when Sam Wilson lands and they're about to start training the new batch of Avengers, on Sam Wilson's shoulder is Tic Tac, is Ant-Man. It's just standing there on his shoulders. And then you would have been like, yes. Also, at this point, the Spider-Man deal with Sony was final. And Joss Whedon really, really, really wanted to fit Spider-Man into that final scene of Avengers Age of Ultron, and they would not allow it because the ink was not dry yet. They hadn't really hammered out how it was all going to work, the nuts and bolts of that deal. But Joss Whedon was very excited by that and couldn't wait to get into his next Avengers film. But unfortunately, he was chased out of Marvel in favor of what I'm gonna be honest with might have been the better option, the Russo brothers, after seeing Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're probably not wrong.
No. So that's going to do it for Marvel Phase 2, guys. Marvel Phase 2 is wrapped up. We are going to be jumping into the final phase of Marvel that leads into Avengers Infinity War, which is the whole point of everything that we're doing here. But I want to thank my guests for joining us. Wes, where can everybody find you?
Primarily these days, I spend mostly on Napster, but I have a really, really nice layout on MySpace. So if you go, no, I'm just teasing. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all the places where you find podcasts.
On MySpace, what's the 5-song playlist that you have on your profile?
Oh, it's just really me humming AC/DC songs.
It's me.
Just
me humming the Indiana Jones theme.
Yeah,
20 minutes.
I have a nice 8-mile layout that I've.
I call my playlist "Mom Spaghetti."
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you put something together like that, you only have one shot.
Yeah. What's your background image, man?
It's just Eminem in a wife beater
with the hood up.
But no, it's an actual Eminem, like the red Eminem, but in a wife beater.
Oh, that's fucking great. John, where can everybody find you?
Well, you can currently find me on Pinterest. I've got a hell of a setup on it. It's mostly anime pages and like do-it-yourself home improvement. So, I mean, it's really fun. I mean,
it also has Child Rearing by Shonuff, which is a guide to raising your children the Shonuff way.
That's right. Lots of crack, lots of heroin, lots of not shitting yourself and not wiping. You know, the proper way.
John, but where can everyone find you, man?
Now in Technicolor, Podfix Network, all that good mess.
I feel like I should retcon everybody a little bit. We're just joking. John doesn't beat children.
Yeah, I was actually about to say, man, I should really probably drop this fucking bad dad thing, or else DCS is going to pick this up and they're going to come back and go, what the hell?
John's a fantastic dad. I've seen it from personal experience. And he is he's a great dad. He's a great guy. Overall, he took time out of his weekend to do this for me, and to add to my show. And he's just one of the best guys I could ever know, which is why I'm so happy to be guesting with him on his show every chance that I get. So,
and he's got a great calligraphy collection on Pinterest. Like, just a really nice.
Yeah, man, I love it. Like all the Skeksis.
Stand. And he never writes anything in Comic Sans.
No, or
Period.
Papyrus.
Because Comic Sans is
God damn it, that fucking Papyrus Avatar was just written in Papyrus, and everybody acted like it was something new.
They changed it, right? They changed it for Avatar too. It looks similar.
I'm pretty sure it's still Papyrus.
And of course, we are the Super Movie Brothers podcast. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter to make comments on anything in this episode. God, I would love those comments. Reach out to us on Twitter at Super Movie Pod. If you enjoyed the beer reviews, you want to know about more beers that Jay and I review that we do off air, check us out on the Untapped app. That is UNTTAPD on iOS and Android. Make sure to also like the Facebook page and check all of the Podfix shows out at www.podfixnetwork.com. All of them are worth your time. All of them are worth listening to. I want to thank everybody for joining us for Marvel Phase 2. Stay tuned next week. It's Marvel Phase 3. No shit. Have a great night. Cheers.